Well, welcome to today's episode. Today we've got a super special guest, Steve Walsh. Steve is a seasoned entrepreneur and a venture capital investor with over 30 years of experience in finance and investment. As the founder of Bison Equity Group, Steve is dedicated to empowering entrepreneurs to reach their highest potential. He's known for his bold strategies and his passion for helping others see and achieve a bigger vision. Steve is also the author of Make the Next Leap, where he shares insights on scaling businesses and unlocking new levels of success. So, Steve, welcome.
Thanks, Mark. It's great to be here. What you're talking about on your podcast all the time right now, AI it's amazing what's going on in AI. In fact, I just had a meeting today with a company that they want to raise capital for their company. And it is changing the way companies are either marketing, back office. There's a lot of things that is going on in those areas. And it's a big learning curve. I feel that there's a lot of companies that need to really step up. I think I read something that was 95% of the applications that are AI applications the companies are trying to bring in are not being used right.
Yeah.
So
yeah, there's so much innovation and then things just falling out, not working, right? A lot of figuring out going on. It's like, are you using AI? Not the right question to ask. Are you using AI well? That's the question.
And I think a lot of companies, especially that I would say small to mid-sized company, they're just getting on board right now. Yeah, and they need somebody to get them to the next level. And I think a lot of companies are being sold a bill of goods because they just, for whatever reason, they just don't know what they don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so young and evolving 100%. And so for those just starting off the podcast here, can you give us a little background on Bison Equity and kind of where you're at today?
Yep. So we're doing right now our main thing is private equity. So we go in, bring in people, systems, and capital if need be. The one thing I would say is the marketplace right now for companies to be bought and sold is probably the largest it's going to be probably the next 10 years. The opportunities are going to be there. So we go in and help those companies. Either we go in and buy a piece of it, or we bring in, we may bring in just people that they need to grow the company to the next level. I always say
all like secondary stuff. It's not venture capital.
Venture capital, we kind of I like to say that 2 million and above. If I can get at least revenues, because that first million it's a lift. There's a lot of times the entrepreneur, they're trying to get to that next level. And once they get over that 2 million mark, then it's a little easier. And we can look at
Are you
scaling
talking about
a little
raise or what their ARR is?
ARR, if they're at revenue about 2 million.
Yeah. Okay, got it. I see.
And then we tend to do is bring in, like I said, if they need capital. I always say that one thing is I start with saying that a lot of these companies, that's probably the secondary thing they need. They need other things besides that. Either they don't have a revenue stream. That's one thing I look at is if you look at companies, recurring revenue is one thing I look at a lot. And if I'm not finding companies that have a recurring revenue, a lot of times they'll say, the one thing they say is, our company's different. We don't have that. And I keep on saying, your competitors probably have doing it right now.
Yeah.
And so
think so.
Right now, and so what we do is I look at is, okay, what kind of revenue streams can we create? I like to see a company that has 4 to 5. That's, and a lot of times it's that reoccurring revenue stream that I really like. And if we can get them on board to think like that, that's a win. And then on top of that is, I met with an entrepreneur. He wanted to get to 10 million. I said, well, 10 million, that seems really achievable. I said, well, why not do 30 or why not do 50? I mean, what's stopping you from doing that? And the thing is, he wasn't thinking big enough. I mean, that's really comes down to it. I think a lot of companies, they look at it as, hey, we're a small company. I always say you're a small company because you think that way. So if you can think differently and look at it as um, you could scale your company. Most companies could scale unless you're a dog washer or something like that. It's a little hard to scale something like that, but majority of companies can scale.
Yeah.
And I look at it as what can we do to do that? And then from there, it's a matter of like, okay, do we need to bring capital in? And if capital is what they need, we'll bring in capital.
Mm-hmm. And when you say we, how big is your team?
So we have right now, we're three. We have three right now. So our team is relatively small, but we bring in contractors. So let's say they need an engineer. I'll bring in an engineer in from outside through my contacts. We'll bring in an engineer, or a lot of times there was a company that we looked at their costs. They didn't really know they're making a couple different types of widgets. They actually didn't know what their cost was at the level that I needed them to be, what the cost to produce that widget.
They didn't know that. Huh, that's not good.
You'd be surprised. I mean, they knew unit cost, they knew, that what the material cost, but really what it came down to was the labor part of it. So I had to bring in a engineer to actually go in and look and see, okay, how do we price this? And they had six different, I think if I remember right, they had six different types of widgets they were making. Two of them they're losing money on. So that was the one thing, is a kind of eye opener for them.
Yeah,
and there's be surprised like that that don't really know really when I dig down what it actually costs to make their product. So, which surprises me. I'm amazed sometimes when it comes into that.
Right. Yeah. This kind of like one of the basic questions that they always ask on the Shark Tank, right?
Yeah. What's your price? What does it cost?
Yeah.
I mean, if you can't give me a definite answer, the production costs, what's it cost to get everything to the end point? And then what does that look like? And then, a lot of times, if it's on the manufacturing side, I like to see a company that actually produces the complete product versus doing piecemeal.
Yeah.
If I can, piecemeal is a little bit different, a lot more competitive. Pricing's really, really hard. So anyway.
And what percentage of your business these days is involved with some sort of AI investment?
So the AI piece that we've been looking at, data centers, that's one of the areas right now. The data centers is really taken off.
Yeah, it really has 100%. I was at a Chamber of Commerce meeting. We do monthly ones for the large group, and there was a commercial, not developer, but a commercial construction company, and they are just being hammered by AI companies saying, can you build us a data center? And so for them, it's a matter of like, I suggested ways to, go out, partner with local commercial real estate brokerages, go find some existing buildings or go find some land, get access to good electricity and good power, and kind of like build it, build it on spec almost, and have the AI companies bid on it. And I don't know, maybe there's some matchmaking to be made between you and them as well, right? Like there's just so much money in AI these days.
Right now, the data centers, we've looked at quite a few of them, and it's really expensive right now to get them up and running. And quite frankly, I would rather be the developer, build them out, and just flip them over, because I feel that at one point they're going to just be overbuilt, and so it's a matter of how, because it's the point now. I sat down with a client. They were gun ho that they were thinking, okay, we're looking at it using a data center, and they didn't know why. I mean, it was kind of comical. Is like they just thought that because everybody was, building data centers, they felt that they needed to be part of that. And I think that was kind of comical, is when there's just a lot of stuff going on right now, and I think there's a lot of that wild west type of thing.
Oh yeah.
Where people are are looking at stuff. But the data center has been a big deal. And then also too is I think we had talked the agent side. People are really getting involved with how do we replace one or two employees,
Yeah.
especially in the back office.
Back office.
So that's
yeah. Yep.
so that's kind of one of the areas that we tend to look at it. It's fun to
Do you mean internally seeing what you guys can do, employing agents for your company?
yes,
Okay.
for us.
Yeah.
We can put these agents in place, and then what types of things can we can make it do? Like for instance, reach out for a company that's we're looking at in the manufacturing side, and let's say we can find quite a few companies that are out there that are the range that we want, and so when it is a matter of what can we do? So we can create that where it dials, calls, and then a sequence of question and answer with the owner. And then from there, it's a matter of okay, then from there I can get on the line afterwards. So it's really frees up time. Is really what it's done.
Exactly.
Does for us.
It really does. That's one of the biggest things about AI. It's kind of rolled into my purpose of this podcast and of my AI consultancy when I pair it, especially with coaching, is the idea of time saving and the efficiencies gained. And for me, the invitation is always to have people use that time wisely and put it back into, for me, it's like time with my kid. Ideally, it's, time with someone's families. I had someone on board the podcast recently, and for her, instead of going down and affecting the lives of her children, it was that she was able to do something with AI that turned around an RFP faster for her business, such that then she took that time saved and she was able to go and be a caregiver for her mom because her mom's elderly and needs help, where less than a year ago, she wouldn't have been able to do caregiving for her mom because she wasn't employing that AI in her workday. So that time efficiency thing is huge, so long as people are using it wisely and it's not just creating more busy work for them. If they're choosing not to be with their families, but they're reinvesting their time into their business and they're helping scale their business more, then of course that's great too, right?
Yeah. And, there's a lot of, I think right now, especially, there's a lot of the entrepreneurs that, they have this idea that they want to scale, but they just don't know how to do it. And so that's really where we come into play, is really work with them to get to the next level, and whatever that looks like. I kind of put a threshold in where I think they need to go, and then from there it's a matter of okay, what tools do they need? AI is a big play on that, because there is the number of things that need to be, I feel, especially when it comes to billing, even quotes, a lot of the things that can be done with AI that normally they have somebody in the back office that does it. So I believe that right now it's so much easier to scale a company versus it was 5 years ago.
Oh, I agree.
Just with all the stuff that's available for them. And they're able to think outside the box a lot more. You're talking about freeing up time. An entrepreneur, a good entrepreneur, I feel that if they are looking into their company from the outside in, a lot of times it gives them a lot more creativity, so they're not in the weeds all the time. It really helps growing and scaling their company. And that's where AI, I believe, really comes into play.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. So that they're not just working a job, and they're instead able to stay up there at that director level and not be in doer mode, not be the technician of things, but they're hiring help to, that they're delegating the work out to, and they're able to be that creative entrepreneur and oversee their business and grow it from there. Yeah, 100%. So that's interesting. And well, being in the financial realm, what's it like to interact with AI, knowing that there's so much around data security and privacy and that sort of stuff? And so how do you address the idea of compliance and regulatory issues around the financial world and AI?
I think you really got to be careful, especially when it comes to the banking side. The one thing is a closed loop system. You really got to be careful that you're not using ChatGPT to do something that you shouldn't be doing, because that's a problem right there. Is if you don't use a closed loop system, you get it into ChatGPT, then the whole world knows. Feel that the problems are right now is if you're using something like that and you're not, especially in my industry, is, when it comes to like banking or doing anything with capital, is that there is a problem. And so you have to lock it down. And it's a matter of what things can we do and what things can we not do with the system. So that's where we're getting into trying to create more closed systems than we had in the past. So it's just because you have to.
And so is the regulatory like oversight agencies, I forgot what they are in your industry, right? But those bodies that are around regulation and governance compliance, are they rolling out to you guys like suggested best
Not really.
practices around AI or anything?
I mean, right now, it's like I said, it's so relatively new for some of these, and these agencies a lot of times just don't have the time. I mean, they're going after, and so that for them to do a lot of that is it's just not happening yet. Now, 5 years from now, yeah, it'll be there, but right now it's not. We're just not seeing it. And so that's where the governance, you have to do pretty much your own governance. So, but the banking side is, they're really gun ho about it. You got to be careful about, especially when you're doing Zoom calls, things like that. Who's on the phone? Who's on the Zoom call with you? Is it trusting? Can you trust that? Because that's really one of the things that's happened in the past. You've had this where the people that were on the Zoom call didn't even exist. And so now you have to really be careful of what you're doing, especially when you're wiring money between companies, things like that. So you got to be really careful about who you're working with and doing backup. Meaning, if you're doing a Zoom call, you got to make sure that backup you're making either a phone call or something like that, just so that you're not running into problems like that.
I see. Yeah. So you're like building up the trail.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Because there's the whole thing of also like how does any business maintain that human interaction while
Mm-hmm.
also employing some sort of AI alongside the work that they're doing?
Right.
Yeah, so I like that. So that's one example that you gave in regards to, yeah, just creating that trail, following up with emails, phone calls, etc. That's great. That's great. How else do you suggest balancing that AI and human intelligence interaction with things?
So, we looked at a company that their receivables were way out of whack.
Yeah.
And one of the things, they just didn't have enough people. And that was one of the things we looked at, is bringing AI to take over, creating AI agents and taking over a lot of that AR, so that after every 30 days, they get a response back. And then it's a matter of like, okay, a phone call needs to be done, things like that to the company. And right now, especially, you're starting to see companies that are, I don't want to say struggling, but they're feeling the pain. And so more things that you can do to increase revenue stream or increase their revenue, receiving capital quicker than they had in the past, it's just going to benefit them down the road. So anytime that they get the 30-day, 60-day, 90 days receivables, and make sure that that's taken care of, just basic things like that. But the accounting is going to be, I feel that's going to be one of the areas that can be fixed relatively quick. And so we're always looking at opportunities, how we can put them in place, and then bring somebody in that actually can put it in place for us. Bringing in the agents system that's going on right now. That's really interesting, and there's so many things that are happening, and I think it's moving so fast right now. I struggle like I said, I always try to find somebody that knows a lot more than I do because I struggle to keep up with everything I can to get that's going
Yeah,
on because there's so
it
much.
is just going so fast. I don't think that pretty much anyone can keep up. I mean, even the guys that are putting all of these big things together, like if you want to go Sam Altman, he doesn't know everything that's going on with how people are adapting
No,
his product, right? Let alone the other LLMs, and it's just opened up so much possibility. That's what I like about it. Like the creativity that people are having around this, like I shared with you before, the company that's doing
mhm.
it to accelerate drug trials and getting medicine into people's hands years earlier than what normally would happen. And there's people putting it into place with higher education things. I mean, like literally the sky's the limit, right? Like the blue ocean mentality. Like there's just so much going on. And that is one of the inherent challenges, is that as the AIs just continue to leapfrog, and then there's so much going on, it's the classic like shiny object everywhere,
No,
right? But it's like, pick that awesome hammer. It's awesome as is, and just start banging away on your one, roofing project to get the nails in, right? Like just do the job, like do the thing. Use this awesome tool. Your roof is going to get laid down and shingled sooner than it has in the past. Don't get excited about this pickaxe when you need a hammer.
well, that's the thing. And a lot of times, though, we've seen where the company knows that they need AI, but they don't know what they need. And so a lot of times it's like, okay, I need to bring in a consultant that will really, really open that up for them to figure out. Um, and then they find out that they have probably two more people that they don't need. And so, that's kind of that one thing is they hate to see it happen, but the efficiencies go out the roof. And
No what?
they the
Errors.
errors
Yeah.
they cut down. Here's the thing. I mean, it's either it's in the manufacturing side or the billing, accounting, reporting gets done a lot faster. I mean, that's because we always look at the reporting. I want to see the financials and
Yeah,
I want
that's
to
the
see them.
guts of your work.
And so the reporting is probably the biggest thing that I look at is on AI is that I want to get the financials done and I'd like to see them by the end of the month. And, it's 2 months later and I'm still waiting for the financials. And so um, that's going to be one of the areas that I see that you're going to see a big leap on
Hmm.
what's going on. Then that's where I come into play is when I look at companies that have struggled with either have too much inventory, um, they but they don't know. Sometimes they don't have a really good tracking system on they have way too much inventory and figured out okay what do we need to do to get rid of this specific thing that they have and so that's where the AI could come in and play and really that inventory control would
Oh yeah.
so the applications are unlimited like you said the owner entrepreneur has to understand that they may not know, but they can find somebody that will do it for them. And if they're willing to be open minded for that, their company can scale a lot quicker, a lot more efficient, and they can sleep a lot
Right.
easier.
And
You know,
where have been some instances where you've seen AI do some work, and then this could be for a client of yours or just, in industry and business in general, where you've seen that the AI has given the business some unique challenges or setbacks, but then lessons learned from that situation. Can you speak to any lessons learned because of AI challenges?
so we had a company that was using it for inventory, and somehow or another, the data got deleted, and they thought it was because of AI, but it got deleted, and so they had a heck of a time going back and putting the data back to where it was normally. And the reason why is because they weren't, this was a smaller company, and one of the things that they backup was not always their thing, and so they were behind maybe I think that remember 6 months, So they had to go back and pull, and they had to recreate a lot of things. And it was a nightmare. It cost them months and months. And it was a lot to do with, they think it was the AI. They weren't using it properly, and they feel that AI deleted a lot of things for them. And that was, I think that the problem is sometimes these companies get in AI and they don't know what they don't know, and they don't know how to run it. And they maybe not trained properly on it, and they put it on their system thinking it's just going to take over, and it doesn't. And
There's so
so,
much manual
you know,
handholding that has to occur.
yeah, so we've had issues with that. The other thing is too, I've had where a software company, they had a AI piece of their software that they weren't even using. I mean, it was a classic. They could have been promoting their company a lot better just because they weren't using it. It was just sitting there. So we got them to start using that piece of their software, and not only did it increase in efficiency on the company, but the way they were marketing the company, their sales went up. I think it was like 40% just
No
because
kidding.
of that. And because they weren't using the AI like they
Right.
should have been. The one thing I would say about that is they weren't properly trained on it. And so they struggled with it. So that was a really, and the CEO couldn't believe that they weren't using to what they could have been doing with it. And, like I said, increase their sales by 40%.
Amazing. Yeah, I mean, there's positions that didn't exist a few years ago, right? A CAIO.
Yeah.
Like, what was that? There wasn't a thing, right? Like these days it's a thing, and there's departments. And then kind of touching on what we were speaking about before as well with AI agents, as companies of various scales deploy the AI agents to work for them, then internally there are AI agents that are interfacing with other AI agents in the business and then being overseen by kind of a manager AI agent. And it's that manager that maintains the human interface. And so the humans just literally overseeing a worker group of AI agents based on their one interface with the manager of the AI agents. And so, they can all work in concert together, but always the importance of having that human intelligence so that,
Right.
number one, the AI isn't going off in these tangents, these hallucinations, and these things that don't matter to do the company's thing, whatever it is that they're delivering, right? But then also just that it really is truly the efficiencies are being maintained, and it's not just creating all of that more like busy work. And yeah.
Yeah, the busy work, and I would say, getting the companies up and trained on what their AI can do for them, uh, especially when you get to, once you get to over 100 million, most of these companies they have their own team. They have a team there that's working on AI 24/7. For teams, when you get lower than that, there's a lot of companies there that just don't have that. And they're trying to figure out what they need for AI, what they can do with it. And quite frankly, they just don't know. And so that's where I think you see, um, you know, a lot of consultants coming in and getting them up and running. The agent side, I think, is going to be huge. I mean, there's so many of these companies that on the billing, anything back office is going to be, the number of people you can replace with that. It's going to be amazing.
Yeah, yeah, indeed. I mean, it's said that 85% of roles and responsibilities in a company, 85% can be affected in some way, shape, or form by AI. So not necessarily replaced by, but certainly augmented, and could, deploy usage of AI in assisting the tasks for that role. And so
Right.
then, my job as consultant, or big companies like you were mentioning that have internal teams, right? Like the model is figuring out where those pain points are, where the inefficiencies are, kind of like what's going to move the needle the most, right? And deploying AI into that with the human interface so that the thing is getting done better.
I think the sales side is another place that there's a lot of things. People still want to be sold or want to work with somebody, a person. But the number of tools that the salesperson will have now, they can get changes that are done relatively quick. The updates are going to be done relatively quick. A lot of the things that they normally probably wouldn't have, or updates that they didn't know about, they can be educated on a lot faster. Those are the things that you've seen is all of a sudden a sales guy goes into a meeting, the person asks him a question, and they didn't even know that that was a change. AI can really give them, it's like, hey, these are the top 10 things that have been changed within either the product or the service. And then this is the thing, this is what a customer may want to know. The salespeople, the number of tools that they'll be able to use, it's amazing what's going to happen. But like I said, it's still that interaction, that personal interaction that companies are going to have because of it.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Like the AI is making the salesperson smarter, and it's still up to the salesperson to have the relationship with the potential client to be able to secure a deal.
Right. There was a client that their company, they do a lot of stuff with Microsoft.
Okay.
And so one of the things that, Microsoft, they continually change their products. And that was one of the things that he was struggling with, is that he didn't know about updates a lot of times. And his customer was asking questions. And finally, they created an agent that's all it did, is find out what each company needed. So it made his life a lot easier. He didn't want to go, didn't want to go into the sales cycle
Yeah.
blind.
Oh, yeah. No, smart like that. What would be some trends that either you're noticing now in regards to AI and the financial world or business in general? Current trends that are coming about, or if Steve could get out his crystal ball for Q1 of 26, what could you what is it, like, hypothesize on what some new trends may be coming out?
I think the thing is right now is, like we had talked, the agents, it seems like that is a big trend
Yeah.
right now. And the bots, they're getting away from the bots and they're using the agents instead. I think it's going to only improve more. The one thing I would say is that right now we're seeing a lot of data centers being built, and they're throwing a ton of money at this stuff, and they have the bandwidth. The power grid, we just don't have the power grid yet set up for this. The trend I'd say about that is, obviously we're trying to ramp up. I would say if you're looking at trying to get up and running, natural gas is going to be, the trend is still going to be natural gas. That's going to be one of the areas that, if you look at what's going to happen, is a lot of these generators are going to run by natural gas. Data centers, they need power, and power is, one of the things I would say is that we always go through these where we get overbuilt. We see a bubble, and then the bubble breaks, and then we go back to norm. A lot of companies that were making money may not making money anymore. I mean, we had that same thing happen in I would say 99. I mean, Cisco was doing really well. We're kind of seeing that same thing right now. But if you're seeing bubbles, there's always going to be opportunities. And so I would say that the companies that survive are going to be the ones that have done the bricks, probably the picks and shovels. Those are the ones that are going to be the ones that survive. They may go through a downturn with everybody else, but they're going to survive. But the data centers is going to be, that's constantly changing. They're extremely expensive to build. We just don't have the power. But the power grid's going to be, right now, if you look at what's going to be done down the road, we need power, and we can't do enough solar, we can't do enough wind, but we have plenty of natural gas. Natural gas is going to be the power generators with that. Right now, there's a big push to get those in place. GE's doing some big things with that. I would say that if you're looking to look at, and then also too is copper. Copper's been a big
As
deal
part
right
of
now,
the
and
hardware
yeah, we're
infrastructure.
going to continually the hardware. We're still going to see a lot of that being used. They're looking more so too with aluminum. Aluminum too is another place that they're looking at using a lot more. So those are going to be the areas that if you look at materials, that's going to be obviously going to be a big deal. But trends, I would say anything to do with AI right now, probably in 5 years, some of that stuff is going to be so far ahead. Companies that can, I believe, really embrace it and not be so afraid of it, those are the people that companies are going to survive. Those are going to be the ones that really do really well, that can, if you look at the trend, we have a number of, I would say probably the next 10 years, the trend is going to be the number of companies going to turn over. We have a high percentage of business owners that are that 58 to 75.
Okay.
They're kind of wanting to go sell. And so you're looking at those companies are opportunities to buy right now. And also those are opportunities to buy and scale. Because a lot of these companies, they didn't have AI. They didn't have a lot of the things that they could now. And so this is going to be the opportunity is right there, is look at these companies and stay away from, I would say, the larger cities. Look at some of the smaller cities, seeing what's out there that they potentially have not, accounting firms are a good example. A lot of the larger firms have been rolling up, but the smaller towns, smaller cities, they still have a lot of accounting that's ripe to be bought. And manufacturing, that's going to be the other place. There's a lot of those business owners, they've been doing it the same way for the last 20, 30 years. And so now it's a matter of, look, you can go ahead and buy them and then look at what is it we can replace them with AI. And those are going to be the opportunities. Right now, I would say the back office is going to be the biggest play in that. Look at these companies differently. How can I scale them? It's, the one thing when I look at companies, a lot of times the number one thing that they don't have is marketing. That's the one problem that they struggle with. How do they get their customer and how do they keep their customer? AI is going to be one of those things that's going to really help them get their customer, keep their customer happy. And that's going to be the thing is, it's simple as things as sending the customer a birthday card.
Right.
All the things that you just super simple things like that. A lot of that stuff is going to be automated at a point where you can do things just to keep that customer engaged with your company.
Yeah.
Because they,
Just to stay top of mind.
if they forget about you, you got to have steps top of mind. And that's going to be where AI is really on the marketing side. So that's going to be a big push. But I would say right now, the number of things you look at on the AI side, it's going to be, if you can buy companies right now that are going to be turning over that next 10 years. Now, the other thing is, it's on the other side. A lot of these companies are going to be sold, but that person that's selling their company, what are they going to need? What are they going to want? They're going to have cash to spend and spend on what types of things. Most is going to be recreational. It's going to be travel, things like that. A lot of the things that they probably had put it off before. That next 10 years, you're going to see a lot more leisure things happening. You're going to see a lot push because of that. That they've been holding off to do the trips or things like that. Now they've decided that, we've sold our company. We're going to take advantage of it like that.
Yep. I've got someone in that exact frame of mind right now, what you're talking about.
Yeah. It's going to be, you're only going to see it accelerate. That, like I said, 58 to 75-year-old, they've had that company and they want to sell it. They're going to sell. Hopefully they can sell it. There's a lot of companies that don't sell just because, for whatever reason, they just don't. They want either too high of a price or it's not it's not ready. That's a lot of these companies with AI cleaning up a lot of the problems that they've had. That would get them ready.
Yeah. Way more marketable.
That's really very
Yeah, they could exit
much
for
so.
a ton more.
Exits for a lot more, especially if they have it. The more they can put things like automation in place, recurring revenue is a big thing I believe in that most companies lack, the recurring revenue. If they can get that in place, just to get them ready and to sell. And so that's the opportunity I would say that AI can get that in place. And then that company can be sold and then they can do, the things that they wanted to do. So that's where I would say trends. We've seen a lot of areas of real estate. We always look at real estate, and real estate right now, the back to the office is a big push. And so I've been really saying that the area that's going to be really a great opportunity to buy is office space, but not the office space. If you look at office space, you're looking at the B and the C. The A space right now is still really expensive. You just can't get the returns, but you can on the B and C. You have to do rehab on them, but you can you can put some money into them and get them up and running. But those are the areas but like I said, we're not quite there yet on the bubble, but we're getting pretty close. And I think that can happen. Maybe we'll see what happens next year.
Nice.
Yeah.
Wow. You're quite the forecaster here.
Well, I see some of these areas, and
you see it all the time. I bet, huh?
I'm always, we were looking at gold 2 years ago. We were buying gold 2 years ago, and we just saw what was happening, and it was a great opportunity to buy. Now the thing is, it's a matter of we're starting to see close to a bubble in that gold and silver. Not there yet, but we're getting there. You go through the cycles. If you look at the most cycles of a bubble, we're getting close to some of those areas right now. AI is definitely doing one of those.
Right. Yeah, it definitely is.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Steve, this has been great. How can people find you online? How can they get your book? Right? Reach out to you?
Yep. So you can go online at either you can email me at steve@bisonequitygroup.com or go to my website, bisonequity.com, and you can buy my book on my website or go to Amazon. You can buy my book too. So, or you can reach out to me at LinkedIn. Great to just drop me a line if you want, either way. And it would be great to talk to you. If you're a business owner that wants to scale your company, I'm the one to talk to.
You're a wealth of knowledge, 100%.
So,
yeah, and if you could help finance, as you do help them finance their next stage, that's quite the match right there. Fantastic. Awesome. Well, stick around for a quick bit here, but thank you so much for coming on. Really appreciate it, and we'll talk soon.
Sounds good. Thanks a lot, Mark.